All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture Junkies. Today we're going to dive into CBCS losing 367 comics. Let's go. All right, guys, so as a lot of you may have heard or may not, there's been a huge missing order at CBCS. It started back on August 22nd. The news came out that an order had been lost. It was 300 plus books, 367 to be exact. Turns out it was more like 312, but it was first announced as 367. We can get into why that's an issue in and of itself. But this whole order was one order sent in by a comic shop, and it contained in it a bunch of submissions from people. So for those of you that don't know, there's a lot of comic stores. You can go in, take your book in, they will submit it to a grading company for you. That's what happened here. It just so happens that this company was Clan McDonald Comics. And so one of the first things I want to say to you guys is Clan McDonald's not at fault here. Like, Clan McDonald didn't have anything to do with these getting lost. They did everything they were supposed to do. They were taking care of their customers as best they could. So no part of this is Clan McDonald's fault, right? It sucks that it happened to them because a lot of the blowback's going to include their name, but they're not at fault. That's one of the big takeaways here. They're a pretty good company from what I can gather. I've bought shit from them on Whatnot, so it's like I've spent money there before. They've been around a while. They've got a huge community on Facebook with claim sales, auctions. They have multiple signings. I think they have a Paul Dini signing coming up. You should definitely check out their streams, check out their signings, join their group on Facebook. They are the kind of local comic shop you kind of need to support because they do a lot of things for the community, for comic books in general. So it sucks that it happened to them. They've been completely open and transparent with all their customers from the moment that this started, and they've shared all info they have, including screenshots of emails from the president of Beckett and CBCS and elsewhere. So kudos to them. Again, entirely not Clan McDonald's fault. 100%. Please don't let that be your takeaway here, that you should not do any business with them, because that's not the case. So Clan McDonald, they've been with CBCS for 7 years. That's like A1 from day one, right? CBCS is right around 7 years old, and they've been sending books to them in that time since they were founded. They've also become their #1 facilitator. So this is the company sending CBCS the most books over the entirety of their lifetime, right? They've submitted more books than anyone. They're doing it on a regular basis. This is like a huge chunk of their income. Steve McDonald and Borak are tight. Like, they know each other. He was calling straight. He got a call straight from the president of Beckett or whatever when this first came out. So it's not, they weren't a nobody. So what happened? So I had a friend get access and show me some of the posts sent to customers. Let's dive in for a minute. This is going to be a long show, guys. Lots to dig into here. I want to kind of go through the statement though. So first, let's talk about how many comics is 367 comics, because a lot of people are newer collectors. They only collect a few books. They don't have huge collections, and it's hard for them to actually put into mind how many comics is 367 comics. So to give you some perspective, your average long white comic box, right? Average long white, they'll hold anywhere from 250 to 300 books. That depends on ages, thickness, etc. One of the biggest factors in how many books fit in a long white is, are they all bagged and boarded? I'm pretty sure everything getting sent in to get graded is bagged and boarded, if not double. So it's probably not on that 300 size per long box. It's probably closer to the 250. So we're talking at least 1.5 long boxes of comics. That's a lot of books to lose. Like, I've had a lot of comics in my life. I've never just lost a whole long white. Like, it's never just disappeared and I didn't know where it was. I've missed like an issue and thought I had something that I sold or something that I traded or something else. But like a whole long white and a half plus, nah, that's a lot of books. And there's a pretty big gap in their process for where this probably happened that we'll get to in the story. So let's take a look at the statement here. So it says, after 7 years in business supporting CBCS almost exclusively, and yes, they, like, again, they were one of the biggest suppliers to this company, guys. Keep that in mind as you hear some of CBCS's response and how they got treated here. But after almost 7 years of business supporting CBCS almost exclusively, after months of weekly harassing messaging, emailing, I received an email from the president last night advising they've lost 367 of our books submitted in July of 2021. CBCS is not able to locate these 367 currently. quotes. I guess that was a quote directly from what they told him. To date, after all the thousands of books submitted, I can honestly say I don't think they've ever lost a single book, let alone an entire submission, let alone 7 submissions. So to go back here for a minute, let's talk about the time frame here. This order went back in July of 2021. And what happened, and you'll see here in the email, but kind of what happened is he was seeing other orders come back first, and was like, yo, where's this order from 2021? Like, I'm getting a bunch of stuff back that I sent in way after that. And so now it's 2022, a year later, and that, like, he's still not getting the books back. And this is kind of when the questions start coming up. So please read this post in its entirety. I beg of you, please refrain from what about my so-and-so book messages, right? He's probably getting a whole lot of those, a whole lot. And for those of you messaging them, they're probably not going to be able to answer it. Like, CBCS can't locate these books. So messaging them is probably not going to get you any of the answers that you're looking for. So it says, I understand all businesses have issues, but up until Steve leaving the helm, everything was always easily resolved, pushed through, located, etc. Since then, it's been nothing but issue after issue, excuse after excuse, ignoring messages for days, weeks, etc. So Steve Borak, for those of you who don't know, used to be one of the head graders, or the head grader at CGC, left to form CBCS. Left CBCS recently to join Lone Star Comics as part of their heritage auction group or something. And so then you have, ever since that point, like, their biggest customer, this is their biggest customer now complaining about being treated this way, right? This isn't you or me, random person sending them books. This is their biggest client who's now upset with being treated in this fashion. So it says, because I was pissed at the way CMC was being handled, CMC is Clan McDonald. Because I was pissed at the way CMC was being handled, I asked to have my account handled by an actual manager. I was then bounced around to employees who were clueless about comics or what we even did in the industry, who were simply sports card people tossed into the fire of comics grading, and employees who did not follow through with me. Finally, I requested Daryl Hayden to take over my account and all responsibilities associated with being on top of us. So while that person did try, it sounds like his hands were still tied. He was overworked and pulled in too many directions. It is what it is. So it sounds like even their largest customer had to go through that typical customer service chain that we all get frustrated about, right? You guys go back to my CGC messed up my art germ submission video, and I had a whole section in there about having to deal with their customer service, even though I knew that person wasn't at fault, but that was the person that I was stuck dealing with who had to deal with my frustration. Now they're doing this to their biggest customer at CBCS, which is insane. So starting earlier this year, I started noticing usual deliveries in my submissions, books coming back, which were submitted after much older submissions, right? Like I said, they were noticing orders coming back despite having this other huge order just sitting out there, right? I began questioning it and asking about specific submissions I was still waiting on. Then in May, so he started this in May when the questions really started happening, I was informed that CBCS was having difficulty locating approximately 188 books under 5 submissions, but then told, hey, we're moving soon. All your submissions will be located and bumped up and rushed. It's just a zoo trying to get everything done before we move. So a couple things here. One, it's crazy that they, at that point, couldn't locate almost 200 books, and we're just kind of nonchalant about it. Like, we'll find them after we move. Don't worry about it. But then also, what you hear in there is like this deal when they tell you like everyone gets the same treatment, but this is their biggest customer. Oh, when we find your shit, we'll rush it through. Don't worry about it. Like, you hate to see it, but you expect it. Everyone's going to play favorites in their business. That's just the truth, guys. You spend more money with someone, you're going to get some favoritism. I'm actually not that mad about it. It does go back to my point with that Clayton Crane bullshit, though, that he probably just paid for grades and CGC probably just let him because they thought it was worth the while for that customer. Here's where it gets absurd and makes me want to absolutely vomit. Upon pressing the situation further, I was finally informed that last summer they were behind, and someone at CBCS had the brilliant idea of taking submissions delivered to their headquarters in Dallas and reshipping them to an employee out of state to assist from their home in cataloging and receiving books into the CBCS system. Then they would send the books back to Dallas for grading. But no one there could tell me when my books would be done. Also at that time, I was reassured that they were moving in a few weeks and that when they moved all the comics from their safes, they'd be able to get me a better answer in ETA. This we know is likely false hope. So CBCS decided they decided, because they were so behind on orders, the best thing that they should do is ship customers' comics to an employee's home out of state. Ship your shit over to some guy's house, have him catalog them in a computer, and then ship them back to CBCS. Few problems with this for me. One, none of that chain of custody is secure. None of that chain of custody is secure at that point. Two, in order for him to take your books, and you now have shipped, you've unpacked my books, put them in your storage, packed them up, shipped them out cross country to someone's house. They're taking them out, they're cataloging them, boxing them back up supposedly, and shipping them back to CBCS. What do you guys think happens if that guy boxing your shit back up, if he fucks up your comic, or she? Your grade gets fucked up, right? They're not going to tell you that they dinged your book. They're not going to tell you that the crunch corner came from their employee. Even for the people getting these books back, there's still a level of frustration thereof. Like if I sent something in I felt very strongly was a higher grade, and now I have this weird book with an issue with it, how do I know you didn't do that? And how do I know, like at this point, to be honest, CBCS should probably just pay out the insurance on these books and call it a day. If I got anything less than potentially what I thought, I would absolutely be holding them accountable for that. You sent books to someone's house. You had them handle those books, and then you had them ship them back to CBCS. There are multiple steps there where any amount of damage could have occurred that they're going to put all of that shit on you, the customer. Just at the point where I was at the peak of my frustrations with CGC and even potentially thinking about this company, just hearing that these are the decisions that were made, I can't fucking fathom it. I cannot fathom it. This is the craziest shit I've ever heard of someone doing, like in the grading community with people's comics. This is fucking nuts. Steve goes on to say, did they ever get my books back to Dallas? Did the employee actually ship them back? Did the employee keep them? Did they misplace them? Did they get mixed up with other submissions from other customers and go to them instead of Clan McDonald? Did they ever do what I begged for countless times and get tracking to and from the employee in Dallas? No. So they can't even provide tracking. They said they sent it to this person and they can't even provide tracking for it. All unanswered questions for them. Instead, I get a conversation finally with the president a few weeks back stating that they're finally moving and to please be patient. But there's no part of me that could have been patient at this point. I admire Stephen McDonald's patience. There's no way I could have been patient with this company at this point. I fucking would have lost my mind. I received an email from the president, still hopeful. At this point, I'm unfortunately not confident in their ability to locate these and am moving on to the next phase of dealing with their likely inability to do so. You can hear how pissed he is in this email. Like you can just hear how pissed off he is. So he's trying to be patient. He has a good working relationship with this company, kind of up to the time Borak left. He wants to keep this relationship. It's probably a big enough revenue generator for them to be this facilitator that they keep doing it. It brings in enough people who are probably spending money on other stuff. So I get it from that standpoint. Again, it sucks that they got wrapped up in this when Clan McDonald didn't do anything wrong. They did everything they could have to keep this right by their customers. So to say I'm pissed is an understatement. To say I'm disappointed in how their largest facilitating dealer has been handled is an understatement. And to say I'm beyond sick to my stomach that some of these books will never be able to be easily replaced is also an understatement. To those of you who have been with me and my family all these years, you know I'm truly sorry to put even one of you through this, but I promise you, my attorney, and myself will be very diligent making everything right, or as right as I possibly can for each of you. Yeah, if it was my book, they would be making this shit right. Like, I don't care what their excuse would be. This is kind of a good segue, guys, because a lot of us send in books, and when you send in books to be graded, they ask you to declare how much a book is worth. And a lot of us, I know, when sending books to CGC, will kind of fudge those numbers, because the more your book is potentially worth, it can change your grading tier. And so sometimes we want to get a really expensive book graded at a little bit lower tier, and so we kind of fudge those numbers. This unfortunately would be one of those times where that would bite you in the ass completely. because now your $800 book may only get you $400 in insurance. Having said all of that, the only positive things about the missing books is the following. They're still hopeful all of the books or some will be located. Further, I personally have easily over 100 of those 367 missing books under my name for Clan McDonald inventory, further cutting down actual customer impact. To everyone else, please be patient, please be understanding, and please accept my apology. I mean, that's a good thing. Like, if they're going to take their own inventory and replace these books, that's probably good on Clan McDonald, I would say. Again, it's not their fault that these books have gone missing. They shouldn't have to be the person that replaces these items, but they're going to go out of the way and do this for people. And so, I mean, shout out to them for that. Screenshots of Beckett President Jeremy Murray's email and his attempt to not have you blame CMC is in the images below. I still, however, accept responsibility for my allowing them this long to get their act together. CMC will stand behind my promise above to keep you happy with us. So, right, essentially this was a big enough deal that the president reached out to them. Again, it's probably their biggest facilitator. They've completely fucked over here. Just despite the PR nightmare this would be for your company, you did it to your biggest customer. This wasn't like just some rando with their first order or something. Your biggest customer, all the customers that go to them lost trust in them, and now that customer has lost trust in you. So like the cascading effect of the incompetence here, it's just exponential, unfortunately, for CBCS and Beckett. Please hold off on asking questions to me or my family about submissions at this time. I'm handling this project 100% personally and truly doing my best to get it all sorted ASAP. This, that, and the third, etc. So what I will say is I actually did reach out to them and tried to ask some questions and see if they're interested in answering some questions. And they're super polite about it and just said, we're just trying to handle this. We're happy to chat with you after. Please just give us some time to get this taken care of. Our customers involved here kind of have to come first, which I get. They've got a huge ass order for CBCS it's now missing, and it's got to be a nightmare trying to put together all these facts of what's happening. And again, remember when this statement came out, this is their first statement to the public on the 22nd about what's happening here. So it's been about a week now. There's been a little more info that came out and a little more to the story of what happened. So let's talk about the second kind of update to the situation, right? So this update came out today, the 29th of August. So final count was only 312 books. CBCS actually had 55 books on multiple submissions, which has now reduced the actual lost book count. That one's kind of weird because I don't know if that means they had something in their inventory twice. Because if so, it just points to more of what a fucking cluster this company is. But when you're sending random shit to some random guy's house from the catalog in a computer, because that's like the easiest part of getting the comic grading process. That's the data entry part. That's what your frontline first entry-level person does in this company, right? That's not the grading, that's not the handling, that's not the facilitating, that's not the witnessing. This is the entry level. Hey, we're glad to hire you. You're coming to work for minimum wage. You type these comic books into the screen. This is exactly what this is. That's the part they outsource to some rando. The weakest link in the chain. Also the easiest to have 300 and some books disappear, and then the list itself was wrong because they had 55 books on multiple submissions. Fair enough. Of those 312 books, 76 books were inventory spec books from Clan McDonald. So those sound like the 76 of their own books that they were speccing on for sales, right? So that's your whatever, your sensational She-Hulk #1, getting it out before the show, your Miss Marvel #1, getting it out before the show, all that kind of shit, right? And it was their own book. So that's like, I mean, it's still fucked up that CBCS did it, but at the very least, it's not a bunch of other customers of Clan McDonald. It's just between Clan McDonald and CBCS at that point. 100% known replaceable reprintable books, 133. This one's strange because the company that these books came from is reprinting these down to the actual number. So if you had number 455 of 500, the company that printed these books is going to reprint number 455 of 500, which gets really fucking weird if these books show back up. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think that's how they should be making this right in this scenario. That shit is weird. Not a huge fan of it, but that's the route they've decided to go there. I mean, it's not really a limited run of something if you're just reprinting it at at will because someone lost it. Like those limited number runs, you're creating that artificial scarcity. Now, because the artificial scarcity fucked someone over because you made it artificial, like you're just you're up in the number just because you can. Like make additional numbers, make them a special edition or something, but like make them a 1-of-1 edition. Known refund books, 68. 35 people own these 68 books, and you will be getting a contact from us in the next 7 to 10 days. So these are people getting a known refund. Like they know that these 68 books are not coming back. And that's weird too. Because now you know, like 68 of these books they know disappeared somehow. 68 of these books they know you will not be getting back. That to me says theft. Like that to me says something happened and we know that we are not getting these books back. That's a weird one. Remaining books to replace refund, 35 for 27 people, waiting on vendors and our store inventory checks before finalizing disposition. So there's 35 books. They're trying to see if they can potentially replace them before they figure out what to do next with them, if they're going to be refunded or not. Additional comments. As of Friday, CBCS has now received all insurance claims. So all the insurance claims have been filed. CBCS is working with me closely to process and expedite my insurance claims and refunds. Beckett, CBCS CEO, reached out to me Sunday via Zoom meeting, and both he and their president are being responsive and working to ensure this doesn't happen to us or others in the future. Spent quite a while listening to me and my suggestions and concerns, which they probably should. You're their biggest customer. They punted you off to some regular ass customer service for weeks, days, while this entire thing was going on. They probably should feel threatened. Like this is going to be a big chunk of their income and throughput if this company moves on to someone else. Confirmed with Beckett, CBCS CEO Sunday, that all replaced books will be express pass graded in 14 days from receipt at no additional charge. That's probably the right thing to do. It sucks for the rest of you that were in that line, but it is the right thing to do. They should have been graded before you anyway. Confirmed to me that while it doesn't appear hopeful at this point, they've got a team investigating both the breach of security protocol, shipping out books outside the building for processing, as well as doing final searches. So here's kind of the part where I call bullshit. This didn't just happen. Like someone didn't just wake up one day and say, yo, we're really short. Let's call Leroy in Illinois and see if he can grade some books and we'll just ship them over there. Like this was a carefully thought out plan on their end. They thought it was carefully thought out because they were just behind. They couldn't handle the operational capacity for their volume. This isn't like a frontline associate just figuring, well, I'll just ship them over to so-and-so and get them done. This is someone sat in a meeting room in some sort of administrative capacity and decided, here's our plan to deal with this choke point, right? We have this issue with our operational throughput. We cannot handle our volume. We need to get these books graded. How do we keep them moving through and get them out the door? And someone in that administrative capacity okayed this plan to send it to someone's house. I don't know what else they're hoping to find in this breach of security, but the fact that they're like, it's not a breach of security if it's the plan that you're going with, right? It wasn't a breach of security protocol. You fucking signed off on it. You signed off on it and you did it. Calling it a breach of security protocol is acting like someone broke a rule. You guys decided to do this, CBCS. It was your decision to do this thing. And it would have taken multiple people to sign off on and be okay. Like, unless we're shipping our comics to you and they're just sitting around somewhere where anyone can pick up a long white or two and walk off with them, I would hope they're in a secure area where someone has to check them in and out in some fashion so that you know where they are at each point. And if that's the case, someone had to okay at multiple steps this chain of custody until they hit that shipping and went out for sale. That's not a breach of security. You guys were 100% in on this. There's multiple books that probably went out like that and came back that you're not telling us about. So while you're acting like it's a breach of security protocol, nope, you were doing it because you couldn't handle your volumes, right? Your turnover time's almost a year. You didn't know what to do. You didn't have a better plan. And now you lost all this shit. So in the coming weeks, should any missing books turn up, we will handle accordingly and cancel, destroy reprinted Counterpoint comics. So yeah, if we get your book back that they reprinted a copy of, we'll destroy the reprinted one. Right, but what if you don't fucking get them? Like, what if someone else throws it up on eBay and someone buys it, right? And then they send it in to wherever. Right now there's 2 copies of these because this is the replacement you've gone with. That's the part. I understand trying to make it right. I get it, guys. I'm not a fan of it though. You made a limited run of something, it's a limited run. It's not a fucking replace because CBCS fucked it up. That part I don't agree with. And then it was confirmed to them that all other submissions after these appear to be safe and in the proper grading stages. All other submissions are being double checked this week, but confidence level is high. The other thing I would say here is, I don't think it was just Clan McDonald's order. I think there's probably a lot of you who have books at CBCS, and if they've been there since July of 2021, you should really start checking in with this company to see if they know where they're at. I don't trust that CBCS is going to come out and tell you guys that they lost your books. I don't trust that if you're one of these people who isn't one of their biggest customers, that they're going to come out and tell you, we lost your shit. Our fault. We want to make it right. I think your books are going to sit in those fucking received or whatever status is until you make them tell you that they can't find your book. So if you've got books sitting there and you feel like it's been too long, you need to hound them just the same. And you need to have them be accountable for what stage your book is in. Make sure they can put eyes on it and tell you that they actually have it, to make sure that you're not also affected by this. Because here's the thing. Remember I said that long white of books, right? That's about 250 bagged and boarded, maybe 225 if they were double bagged and boarded in there a little bit. So we're talking 225 per long white. Then there had to be another box, right? And if it was another long white, it was probably another whole 225 books. And they could have shipped this person like 6 long whites. Like, we don't know what the fuck they sent to them. We have no idea. They're pretending like it was just these orders from Clan McDonald that were boxed up that they shipped over to them. You and I have no idea, and they're not going to tell you. I, for one, am glad at this point I've never used this company. If you've got your books there, you need to message them to find out. I want to thank you guys for watching. Remember to click like, remember to click subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.